and welcome to this video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the lab we did last week in class on our journey in spatial analysis. So this is the DC crime data, and if you take a look at that data from the database that is on Canvas, you will see that it has, once you extract the files, you see that it has all the files, all the layers that I'm using for this demo. So add those layers to ArcMap and then make sure that the police district boundary is the one that is on the bottom. So what I said is that in GIS everything is possible, but we have to be familiar with the data we are working with. So in this case, we have been given some burglaries calls for DC. So the first thing I want you to do is to take a look at the attribute table of the data you've been given and see the data that you have, and then what analysis we can do with that. So for instance, you can see the date of occurrence, we can see the time of occurrence, the date number, the day of week, the month, the week, the hour, and then you have what day of year. So these are the fields we have. So what it means is that we can use this data to ask various questions. For instance, which day of the week do we have most burglaries? We can answer that such a question, all right? And then we can isolate the question, or which month of the year do we have most burglaries? So let's take a look at how we will run such an analysis. So if we want to do something like that, open up your toolbox, all right? And once you have the toolbox open, I'm going to use what we call the frequency. So the frequency tool will allow you to summarize the data that you have. So here, your input is going to be the burglaries data. So click on that and bring in the burglaries, okay? And then once the burglary comes in, then you are going to ask, what field do we want to run the statistics on? So here pretty much is going to give you the statistics of burglary for, let's say, let's do month. So we want to see the month that we have what most burglaries in this area. And then the output, make sure the output is going to the location that you are interested in. So here I'm making sure it's going to the DC, and then I'm going to give the name, and then I'll just call it month frequency, okay? And then I will save that, so it's going to the month. So here what it's going to do is it's going to generate a table for me, and the table will give me the frequency, the count. So now you can see the table is down. So if we open up the table, now we can actually see what the frequency and then the month of the year. So if we want to see the highest, we just can sort it by the frequency and then say going from what? From descending. So here we can see that the 9th month is the highest burglary, followed by the 11th, and then the 12th month is what? The 3rd, and then it goes on and on. So for instance, based on the data we have, we can answer a question like that. So if you are a crime analyst and your chief is trying to get a report to the citizens to say, okay, which month is the highest that for that particular crime year, did we get enough crime? This is something that you can use the software to be able to answer. The same way, if for instance, say we want to find, let's do and say when we've done month, so let's do the same frequency for the burglaries, and then this time we are going to say, let's change the output, so it's going to be day of week. So just call it day week, all right? And then we are going to say we want to see the day of week, and then check that one and then hit on OK on that. So now we're asking a different question. Which day of week do we have the most burglary? So now if we saw this guy by descending, you can see that Friday is our busiest day where burglaries goes on the most. So for instance, now we've answered 2 questions. We know the day of week, and then we know the month of year. So we can drill down further to see what is going on. For instance, for the day of week on Friday, let's see how those crimes are distributed on Fridays. So if we want to do something like that, we can go to the burglaries and then open up the attribute table, and then we are going to do selection and then select by attribute. And then what we are going to do, select by attribute, is that we know that the day of week is Friday. So we are going to say day of week, double click on that, it will bring it down here, equal to, and then say get unique values, and then we say we want Friday. So we can take a look at all the Friday calls and see where all the Friday calls are located. Okay, and what we are doing over here is we are doing a couple of things. We want to see the distribution of the Friday calls to see, okay, this is the Friday call, do we have any concentration in a particular area? We can now start to answer those questions based on that analysis. Okay, so for instance, I would say let's go ahead, since we've done the query to select all the Friday calls, let's go ahead and right click on the burglaries, go to data, export data, and then we are going to push it back into our DC crime, and then here we are going to call it burglaries underscore Friday to denote that this is what the Friday calls. All right, so we know Friday is going to be another layer. Yes, I want to add that layer, and now I only have the Fridays one. So if I clear selection, and then let me close this, I can go over here, and now all the blue ones, let me take off the landmarks, all the blue ones over here are calls pertaining to Friday. So we have one data. Okay, now the other thing that we can also look in, for instance, is you can see if we take off the burglaries, these are the different police districts. So you can see that each of those have different districts. So this is district 1 through to I think 7. Okay, now another question that your police chief may want to know is which district have the most burglaries, because you want to be able to put more resource in one of them that has more burglaries. All right, so to answer such a question, what we could do is we can put the burglaries data on top of the district, and then what we will do is we will right click on the district, and then we are going to say go and we are going to say join, and say join, and then we are going to choose the option over here to be spatial join. All right, and then the data that we want to join it with is not the Friday burglaries, but the main burglaries, because we are asking a question for everything. All right, and then we want to choose this option to say that I want to give a summary of all the attribute data that I have over there. What it's going to do is that the boundaries are going to count the number of incident that is within that particular district. So when we are done, we are going to get a numeric value that we can use to perform some sort of analysis or create a map to show which of the district actually has the most burglary. Okay, so choose this option and then put the output, and then the output is going to be police district, and then I'll just put by what. So here, let's just say by burglaries. All right, do that, and then once again, I'm saving it into the same database that the data came in. Okay, and then hit on OK on that, and then the software is going to commit to. When it's done, it's going to give you a new layer. So here, this is the police data. Now the police district is going to give you a new layer. Change this guy, and then let's drag this guy down. All right, now I had to switch the source to the list view in order for me to drag it down. But let's open the attribute table of this guy. If you open the attribute table, you can see there's a new field that is created called count underscore. That count underscore gives you a numeric value of the number of points that fell within each of those districts. So now that we have this value, then you can actually just go ahead, double click on this guy, and then go to symbology, all right? And then go to, on the symbology tab, go to quantity, and then when I go to quantity, I can actually map it using the count field. All right, and then I can go ahead and say, okay, I want to use find a symbol that makes sense, and then go ahead and then use that to symbolize the map. So let me take this district off so you can see that one. So now you can see that those two districts are the ones that has most burglaries for the whole DC district. Okay, so a couple of things that we did in class was to be able to label it with the what, with the district, and then the count. So we go to labels. Once we get in the layer property, go to labels, and then when we go on labels, we are going to build an expression. So here, check this box over here, and then click on expression, and then delete what you have over here. We have actually district. So the district will be 2. Okay, so let's do district. All right, and then put the cursor after the district, select the count, and then hit on append, and then take a look at something. I'll show you something else. So go ahead and say okay on that. Make sure this box is checked, and then hit on apply, just to see how it's labeling it. So you can see 2, and then it gives you the number, and then you give that. Let's go ahead and modify it a little bit. So we are going to see 2, and in between the double quotes, just put semicolon. All right. And then what we are going to do is we can also put double quote and then have the word district. All right. Double quote, and then go on space, ampersand, double quote, double quote. Actually, we want it to be 1, and double quote, and then ampersand. So it's going to be district, double quote, district, double quote, ampersand, double quote, ampersand, and then continue with the district as we have it. And then you can hit on verify. When you hit on verify, this is how it looks like. So you can see it says district 6. So I don't want that. I actually want a space in between here. So district space on the double quote, verify. So you can see now it says district 6 and then the total. That's how you can build that expression. All right, hit on OK on that. So it's double quote, the word district, double quote, and then ampersand, space, double quote, space, double quote, ampersand, and then the district is coming from here, and then the rest is also coming from here. All right. When we do that, we can see that now our map is label wall, and this answers a question. If your chief wanted to know how many crimes were happening in, or which district had most crime, this is how we answer that question. All right. So this is a simple color plate map that we can use this data that we have over here to be able to answer that question. All right. So let's go back over here and then bring in the burglaries. And then we also had the landmarks. So let's change the landmarks symbol to something that is obvious. Okay, so let me change it to this guy. So now we can also start asking some questions about proximity to the landmarks. Okay, so DC is known for its landmarks. So what we want to do is that we can build queries to say, or we can ask questions to say, all right, there's a burglary issue in DC. How close are those burglary to the monuments or the landmarks that we know people come to visit? Because if all these burglaries are targeting visitors coming to DC, then you're going to lose tourism. So one of the things you may ask to do is to see proximity of the crime to those monuments. So that is what we call the proximity analysis. So in this case, we are going to go back into your analysis toolbox. That's the same place we got the frequency. All right. The frequency 2, and then go to frequency statistics, and that's where we got the frequency. Now, we just one called proximity. And then there you are going to see a buffer. And a buffer is pretty much going to create a ring around each of those landmarks. So double click on that, and then here your input is going to be the DC landmark points. Okay, now you are going to change the output to go back into your database. All right, and then this is going to be your landmarks underscore buffer. Okay, and then here the distance we want to do. So let's say we want to do 0.3 0.3 miles. We have to change that, and then make sure you change the meters to miles, so the software knows that it's doing miles. And then when you hit on OK on that, what it's going to do, let's say we can hit on dissolve to dissolve all of them, because the dissolve, what it's going to do is if the rings are overlapping, it's just going to dissolve it and then give you a uniform one. So do that and then hit on OK on that. And pretty much what it's going to do is it's going to generate those rings for you. So this is a 0.3 mile radius. And as I said, the dissolve pretty much doesn't allow it to go one here and another one here. Just dissolve all of them. So you can see within a 0.3 mile radius from all the monuments, some of the crimes are intersecting with those monuments. So now another question we want to see is how many crimes are actually happening within that 0.3 mile radius. Okay, so how we answer that question now, remember now we have the boundary. So we can use the boundary to select the number of points that falls within its boundary. All right, so to do that, we are going to use something like the selection. So we go and say, go on the top here, click on selection, and we want to select by location because we want the locations of the points that intersect with the boundary. So hit on select by location, and then what we are going to do is that we want to select what burglaries, because we want to select how many burglaries that are within the boundary. All right, and then what intersection boundary do we want? We want to use the buffer. So we want to change this guy to the buffer we just created, and then hit on apply. You're going to see that it's going to highlight all the burglaries that are within that 0.3 radius. So to find the number of burglaries to give that answer to the chief, I'll only open up the burglaries table of content, open up attribute table, and now the answer is what? There are 138 crimes that are within a what? 0.3 mile radius of the monuments that we have in DC. So that answers a question, and those are specific questions that they can ask. So for instance, for you at home, you can say, okay, the same exercise that I want to do, this time I want to do it at what? Maybe 0.5, and then see how many of those crimes that are within the 0.5 radius. So you can practice that at home and be able to get familiar with some of these tools. All right, so let's collect selection, and then let's remove the buffer, and then let's remove the point. Now, one other thing that we did in class was to be able to visualize our results clearly. So what we said we could do is that because the points are close together, we can use what we call like a density, all right, to show a heat map of where crimes are. So this is the crime map for all the burglaries. So to be able to do what we call a density map, we are going to first ensure that our spatial analysis extension is checked on. So you're going to go to customize, and then you're going to go to extensions, and then ensure that your spatial analysis is checked on. And once it's checked on, you can hit on close. And once that is closed, come back into your toolbox, and then you're going to go into spatial analyst. And then under spatial analysis, you're going to see a toolbox called density. And then here we are going to use the kernel density for now. We will delve more into that. But double click on the kernel density, it's going to give you a window like that. And then what it's asking you is, what is your input point? Which point do you want to use to create that density surface? We want to use the burglaries. So click on the drop down, and I'm going to use the burglaries. All right. Leave the default. All right. And then here, the only thing you want to change is you want to change the output into your um, database. So change that, and then go into your crime database, and here let's just call it what? We'll just call it density. All right. So for all crime, hit on that, and then just keep the default, and then hit on OK on this. Hit on OK, and then see the software will now go ahead and create a surface for you. Now, what you can see it by is there. So remove the burglary layer, and then also the police layer. What we can do is just click on it and then put the halo, and then you can change the outline to say red, no fill, and then that will be on top of the heat map that it generated for you. Okay, so the heat map, we can let it look a little slick. So double click on the density map, and then we are going to go to symbology, and then under symbology, what you want to use is the stretch. All right, and then when you go on stretch, you find a color ramp that really tells the story. And then when you're done with that one, what I wanted to do is go to actually let's go to display, and then on the display you are going to go to the nearest sampling, change that to bilinear, and then you can click on OK to take a look at your density. So if you have ever seen any density map, this is how the density map is created. And this actually shows you, if you compare this density map with this one is showing you that most crimes are happening within those two districts. Okay, but if we look at a density map, you can see that yes, those two districts have the crime, but the crime is not evenly distributed throughout the whole district. It's just a small section that actually is the hit zone. So your density map will really help you target down the area that you have to put attention to. So here we can take this guy off, and let's run the same kernel density, but this time just for the Friday burglaries. Okay, so we want to see if the Friday follows a similar pattern as the overall crime. So here we'll change that also the output, and then we'll call it, as opposed to the density, we'll just call it density Friday. All right, and then let's go run that. And now let's change that one also. I'll change it to bilinear, and then I'll go to symbology, stretch, click this guy down, and then apply it. So here we can see that on Friday, this area is the hot one. You can still within that zone. You can also see it's still there. So if I toggle in between the two layers, you can see that it is pretty much the same areas that are hot is the same one that are hot on the Friday as compared to the other one. All right. So you can use any of this method and then say, I want to do a heat map for Thursday. Extract all the heat map, all the burglaries for Tuesday or Thursday, and then use the same method to produce it. So what I wanted you guys to do in class was you need to frame your own questions. So come up with a question. Look at the data that we have from the burglaries, look at it, and then say, this is a question I want to ask. You can say, I want to see all crimes that happen after 2 p.m. or 12 midnight. So in that case, for instance, you can frame it if that is a question you want to ask. So now you want to build a query that is going to be what? Call crime time, which will be greater than the 2 or the 24 or 23 400 time, and that will select all of them, and then you can use the same similar process. So here's, I say I want to select by attribute, and I want time of call to be greater or equal to get unique value, and then I'm going to say what is greater or equal to, this is 23, so 2355, and let's see how many it selects. So it selected 60. So that might not be, but that's an answer that you can have if that is a question, or if I only want calls that happen on Sunday or Friday. So I want you to frame a question on your own based on what we've done, 3 different questions, and then answer it, and then submit those questions to me. And that's what I wanted you guys to do. So take a look at the video, run over it again. Some of the things that we did overlaps with the Wilson crime data, and for the Wilson crime data, the same. Frame some questions, use the software to answer it, and then send me those questions. And if you use ArcMap, you can just take a screenshot of your final product and then put it in Word document and upload the Word document. Okay. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.